I think I found out why Blizzard is writing boring stories in their own reports. It is not a well-known report publicly traded company started doing a few years ago for their investors and financial reasons. This is explain bland, soft stories and increasing LGBTQ content in Blizzard games. The reason is ESG. Oh my god. This is the new Illuminati for, like, I feel like ESG is like the first thing that the new generation of conspiracy theorists have learned about. It's real though, it is real. But like, there's not a quantifiable amount of data to prove that there's any sort of impact that ESG is having on the actual stories. There's not. And yes, no, ESG, and I want everybody to understand, ESG is a real thing. It is a real, absolute thing. They're losing money. Source, yeah, there's no source for this. I have no problem saying, like, for example, whenever Blizzard did this, I shit on them. There is a video about it. I absolutely shit on them. Everybody did. You don't remember the graph they had in Overwatch? No, I did. I think Blizzard is into this stuff anyway. I think they hired a bunch of people. Like, you look at the people that are tweeting that are Blizzard employees, they're always tweeting about, like, social stuff like this. They're constantly talking about it. I don't think it's an investor decision. They hire people that have this mindset, and then the people with that mindset do it. It's not that complicated. ESG, it basically, I'll read it. ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. It is a framework used by investors to evaluate a company's performance and sustainability based on its environmental impact, social responsibility, and corporate governance practices. ESG factors help assess a company's overall ethical and responsible behavior, which can be important for making investment decisions and promoting long-term sustainability. For example, the S in ESG stands for social, and it encompasses a wide range of social responsibility issues, including diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. Companies that perform well in ESG may find it easier to access capital as more investors are looking for opportunities that align with their ESG goals. This can lead to borrowing costs and better financing terms. Okay, so we actually have a PDF here. This is entirely built around environmentalism, and there was no statement at all, as far as I read, of any instance of diversity or anything like that. This is completely about environmentalism. It has nothing to do with the social stuff. They aren't going to say it outright. So you're saying that they will say everything else, but not that outright? So what your logic is that okay, so like there's this thing that they will never say outright, but there are also, so why would they not say it outright? Because if you're trying to, like, oh, well, they want to imply it, well, then why do we have diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace as, like, a legitimate, like, position? It doesn't make sense. Like, if this is supposed to be, like, a under-the-table thing, then why is it a open position in a company? It's just, it's illogical. ESG does not necessarily mean woke. No, I don't think that it does. And so, you want to know why ESG matters? It's mainly for the environmental reasons. So, the problem with the ESG conversations is that this is what I think happened. Okay? So wrong. Okay, all right, let's start debating. Let's go. All right, here we go. What am I wrong about? ESG was instilled by Mr. Larry Fink to determine investment viability. Okay. I concede that ESG is real. I think that it is real. I agree with you. I think that it's real. Come on. Come on, man. He uses it to judge the adherence to certain policies and enables investment groups and pools to be on the same page. I agree with you. Okay. All right. Maybe I haven't explained my argument. So my argument is this. My argument is that I personally think, because this is what makes sense to me, this is what I think. I think that the primary goal of this is environmentalism. And I want to go ahead and I want to use an example. So this is one thing that I do that a lot of chatters, please, if you want to make an argument against me, please please try to do this. I would appreciate it if you would do this. Please use examples. So I'm going to make an example now to prove my point. And just as an example of how ESG could make sense in a logical way that is completely detached from diversity or social justice or anything like that. So do we all remember the video that was made about McDonald's in France? And now it's called McDo instead of McDonald's in France. And because of the different rules that were made, let's go ahead and pull the video up just so I can have a specific example. So as you can see here, this is a McDonald's in France. So as you can see here, there is a plastic cup, plastic here, and maybe not plastic, but some form of reusable stuff that's being given out here, and it's not the usable, disposable stuff that you're able to get in McDonald's here in America. Now, the reason for that is actually because of an EU regulation, and I think actually it might just be a specific France regulation, but the regulation actually will continue to expand over the time. Obviously, a lot of regulations have like provisions that they don't fully go into effect until like 20 years in the future to give businesses time to adapt and kind of change their business and allocate funds to solve this problem in the future. So if you're an investor and you want to invest into a company that might have these different types of regulations over their head, do you think that it is a worthwhile and meaningful metric that a company is adhering to or not adhering to environmentalism concerns? Especially because ESG is not an American thing. ESG is a global thing. And globally, especially in the EU and in Europe, this is much more of a component. So I think that whenever you say that ESG is all about diversity and replacing white people with black people, maybe this might be the case with like a few Netflix shows and a few other things. But I don't think that this is the grand design of some massive board of directors at BlackRock. I think that what they care a lot more about is making sure that these companies are compliant with regulations like this, so the business is future-proof from being able to get fined and get fucked over because they're not adhering to different types of like rules in the EU. So that's what I think. And I'm not saying that diversity isn't... guys, I want to say again, diversity is part of this chart. It is part of the chart. But I don't even think that it's a big piece. I don't think it's half. I don't even think it's a quarter. I think it is primarily environmentalism. That's not the point, idiot. The investors using... Okay. All right, next. Let's line them up, knock them down. That's not the point, idiot. The point is investors use ESG criteria to invest. The PDF is literally a guide for investors about ESG. Keep reading the Reddit post. So which PDF are you talking about? The one you opened from the Reddit post. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at this. So what part of this... So we're talking about climate change issues, ESG data, series of policy measures called Green Deal, stipulate green climate change. Like I have it right here, so I'll just let you look at it. I've already read the whole thing. And so what part of this, what am I saying that's disagreeable? Let's start this up. Let's start this. What am I saying that you think I'm an idiot for saying? PDF is just a guide of what ESG is. I don't know why you look into it so much. That's not the point of the Reddit post. The PDF is just a guide of what it is. So, okay, all right, under your logic. So the PDF is a guide of what ESG is, and the PDF is primarily focused on environmentalism. But I am wrong, and I am an idiot for saying that ESG is focused primarily on environmentalism, whenever the foundation of your argument that I am an idiot for is that I didn't look at the PDF, which says that ESG is based off of environmentalism. Is that right? Please. Didn't scroll all the way down? I already did. I already looked at all the thing. I control F for any sort of diversity stuff. It has nothing to do with it. The concept of ESG as a principle as investors aligned around key social issues. This is giving a, can't you read? Can you not read? Just read it. If you look into the PDF too much, it doesn't matter. What matters is the Redditor's post on the point. Okay. So so what you're saying is that the actual sourced information that was written by a professional in the space actually doesn't matter, and what does matter instead is a Reddit post that was made by an anonymous user with no credentials at all. Right, because originally you were using the source as your argument, and then once the source was found to be not helping your argument, now it doesn't matter anymore. If you read it too much, it doesn't matter. They don't go into details because it's a formality for investors that it's considered. Allows the company to fill the gaps without oversight. Why would it be a formality whenever it's so what you're saying is that the one part of it that is a formality is the main reason, but not the thing that they're talking about. You're so out of context. You're so out of content. You're reading boring governance guides. No, I find this very interesting. I actually like this stuff a lot. I see this stuff talked about a lot, and I like educating myself about it and talking about it with other people. I don't find this to be out of content. I think this is interesting. For other people that don't find it interesting, that's totally fine with me, but I do, and so that's what I think. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about ESG for the past 6 months or so, and so it's interesting to educate myself and look into exactly what it is and what the components for it are. If I look at this entire PDF, everything that's been looked at in this PDF is the implementation of ESG, and the only time that ESG is defined or quantified in any measure is at the beginning of the PDF, naturally, because that's where they present the thesis of what the argument of the PDF is going to be making, which is them talking about, again, nothing having to do with diversity unless you want to say that investment in emerging markets could mean minorities coming into the market. Otherwise, they never really said anything like that in the entire article that I've read so far. I've read like probably 10, 20 pages here. So I don't think this is really true. ESG been creeping around my company since before COVID. What I'm saying is that I think that there are other diversity things that are separate from ESG. It's not useful just for investors. It can also help companies choose vendors when SaaS portfolio rationalization, kind of like the company I work for is trying to do. You'd have to give me an example about that. But what if the company that cannot increase their ESG index in the way that McDonald's on the EU so they can go hard on diversity? Oh, you're absolutely right. And this is actually a very, very good point that you're making, is that I bet if you go and you look at Blizzard's ESG report, what they're going to be talking about primarily with this is their diversity measures. And why are they going to be talking about their diversity measures? Because they're not going to be making any other measures to affect any sort of climate effect, to affect anything with climates. That's why. It's because they're producing a social product. Of course. Of course they're going to be talking about that. That's what we're saying, no? This is affecting Blizzard. What I'm saying is that Blizzard would be doing this regardless of ESG. Because the people that work at the company, the boots on the ground, have this mindset. This is not something that's coming from the top down. It's coming from the bottom up. If you look at the people that work at Blizzard and express themselves on public channels and public media, they all have this viewpoint. This is not something that Bobby Kotick is telling them to tweet about. They're doing it on their own. Blizzard's ESG report leveled up our progress, diversity of our characters and narratives, goal of expanding opportunities for players to see themselves within our game. Changes the narrative to add more diversity, include characters in the ESG report, make investors happy or attract new investors. Yes, that's clearly what they're going to try to do, of course, because ESG is part of that. And again, all I'm saying, this is my argument. I don't want people to get it twisted because they're getting it twisted already. I am not saying that this yellow slice doesn't exist, but what I'm saying is that I think the majority function of ESG is primarily future-proofing businesses for environmentalism because of different types of regulations. That's the main thing that I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying that that this doesn't have an impact at all. All I'm saying is that this is not some top-down Illuminati control conspiracy. It is just simply a measurement tool that has this as one of its components. And it is one of the smaller and less impactful components for the majority of companies. That's all I'm saying. Does that make sense? I'll read a few comments about this, and then I want to move on. You're 100% right, but it's easier for them to boost their ESG score whenever they focus on diversity. Boosting your score based on environmentalism is costly, difficult, and you need a lot more effort. Yeah, and I think that is a huge problem, and you're probably right about that exactly. Yeah, in terms of Blizzard, yeah, definitely. Not expected to be large penalties for non-compliance with diversity violations. I don't know enough about that to comment on that. I have no idea. Is there a correlation or only a causation between the rise of ESG and entertainment going down the drain? I don't know. I don't know when ESG really started getting implemented. People said it was in like a few years ago, but I don't really think that that's a one-to-one. Yeah, I mean, look, guys, I'm not saying that any of this stuff is like a good... I think that making sure... So, like, if you were an investor, think about it like this, logically. If you were an investor, would you want to know what the ESG score was for a company that you were investing in terms of environmentalism? Because I would. I absolutely would. I think the concern here is that environmentalism is very different than, like, inclusion. These are two completely different things, and realistically, they probably shouldn't be lumped together. No, money first. So what? You go to Home Depot and you see a bag of seeds and you're like, this isn't a carrot plant. You couldn't fit a carrot inside of this. How the hell? This is false advertising. There's no carrots in this seed pack. Where are they? Come on, man. Jesus. Environmentalism is just a mask. Okay, all right. We've got an individual here. All right, we're gonna read your comments. I'm gonna do like maybe one or two other ones. What a moronic argument. Oh, am I wrong? Okay. All right. Yeah. Actually, let's. This person I think actually is less informed, so we're gonna deal with him first. Okay. All right, balding even back then. Yeah, true. Okay. So what am I wrong about? Cherry picking? Should I cherry pick you? Okay. Let's cherry pick you. Since you're concerned about me cherry picking, yeah. All right, you're gonna be cherry picked right here. Let's do you first. Yep, let's go. Let's just knock these out. And we don't have a lot of time. I'd like to look at some other videos, etc. And so I don't want to waste a lot of time on this. Okay, let's go. Put me on. Yep, you got it. All right. The floor is yours. You are criticizing me for cherry picking the people in the chat who are uninformed and don't know how to make a good argument. Separating yourself, saying, put me on. Well, here we go. ESG scores give investors a way to judge the sustainability of investments around environmental issues, i.e. not making investments where the investment is going to get destroyed by weather events. This is primarily how it's being used, and the diversity aspect is very peripheral to how investors and companies are using this methodology. No, shut up. That makes too much sense. Stop it. Can we ban this guy? When the companies say they are concerned about investors, they are talking solely about BlackRock and Vanguard, who push these ESG standards. They are not concerned at all about the average investor. When you say it isn't top-down, that is exactly what ESG is. Okay, let me go ahead and explain what I meant whenever I said it's not top-down. So whenever there are a bunch of people that are at a company, like, you know, for example, Blizzard, right? And there are individual employees that are talking about, you know, the diversity, inclusion, that kind of stuff. Bobby Kotick isn't the one telling them to tweet that. He's not telling them, hey, you have to talk about this on Twitter. No, these people are doing it on their own because it's something that they believe. So my point is that it would logically make sense that if you have a company full of people that have a viewpoint, that the company is going to reflect that viewpoint. Also, BlackRock and Vanguard are not the only two people that are invested in everything. They're two of the biggest, yes, but there's a lot. So what about diversity hires? Okay, you just disproved your point. Diversity hires predate ESG. You realize you're disproving your point, right? Diversity hires not ESG. ESG is part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. So, okay, like we've got two other people and after you. What is the problem with what I'm saying? What have I said that you think is wrong? Let's go ahead and just narrow this down. I don't want to waste any more time. What have I said that you think is wrong? Putting a mandatory training in the company forces you to talk about ESG if you ever want to get a promotion. Well, of course that's it's top down by definition. Okay, so can you explain what I said that was wrong? Just explain what I said that was wrong. Rather than just stating something. Refresh. Oh, sorry. I'm saying that people who say ESG is top-down reconstruction of the workforce, they are right. You are not necessarily wrong. It's top-down reconstruction of the workforce. Okay, so this is my argument. I think that ESG is primarily a focus around environmentalism and the sustainability of a company being compliant with environmentalism concerns. Why do I think that? Because that logically makes sense. That's just what makes sense. And also, we have examples of it. Like, for example, the McDonald's in France. So he just made up an argument? I don't know. Did he? Did he just make up an argument? I'm saying that people who say ESG is top-down reconstruct workforce are right. You are not necessarily wrong. Well, then, if I'm not necessarily wrong, then why are you saying... Retirement was run by oil executives, Council for Inclusive Capitalism. Here we go. Do we have anything else besides this? Don't ban me, I love this stream. Then have a better argument next time. Okay, here we go. Forum, are you still here? It's your turn. It's your turn. You had a lot of stuff to talk about. So do you wanna express yourself? Do you wanna talk? Yep, we could get the heads rolling. Yep. You said the initiative starts from the bottom to up, and the people believe the opposite. I think that there are, of course, top-down perspectives that they're going to have. Of course, they're going to do that to an extent. But what I'm saying is that the reason why all of these people are doing it, it's not completely top-down. Of course, there are going to be some times whenever there are companies that have executives that have initiatives like this. I'm just saying that that's not the end-all and be-all. It's not like these massive big companies are telling people to do all this. Okay, here we go. You compare a corporate Pomporio to a bag of seeds that's reductive and non-comparable. Bad example. Okay, explain my metaphor to me. Yeah, I want you to explain my metaphor to me so I know that you understood what the metaphor meant. Why do they always just make vague criticisms with no examples or actual substance? Because they're stupid. Duh. Yeah, there's not a lot to it. What is the guy taking time out of his stream to argue with random chatter? I find it interesting to listen to what people have to say. And I think that it also provides a conversation point about topics that are surrounding this. Yeah. It doesn't bother me at all. Bad example. So can you explain my metaphor to me? Come on, please, come on, please. Oh, bro, come on, man. Can you please fucking... Jesus. It's a bad example because he didn't understand it? Yeah. Okay, he typed something. You're saying that a customer looking at a bag of seeds would not be able to identify a bag of carrot seeds as such comparable to an investor looking at a company portfolio looking to see ESG as the only factor or the main factor. No, okay, so that's what I thought. I thought you misunderstood my metaphor. I thought that's what it was, and so yeah, now this makes sense. So what I was making sense for is that a seed, whenever you plant it, it grows into being something bigger, right? So like whenever you buy a seed, you're not buying the seed for the end product. You're buying the seed for what the seed is going to turn into and what's going to happen with that seed maybe 6 months down the line, a month down the line, and it will make carrots. So basically, if you buy a carrot seed, you are looking to make the carrot seed turn into a carrot. And if you do that, you have to make sure that you know that you're buying a carrot seed. Because if you buy a bottle cap, you plant this in the ground, it's not going to turn into a carrot, is it? Probably not. So the point that I'm making here is that whenever people are investing into companies, they are going to want to invest into a company that will have a long-term growth that will be positive, and it will turn into the proverbial fucking carrot. They want to invest in a carrot seed, so the carrot seed turns into a carrot plant that makes carrots. And they don't want to invest into a bottle cap. Now, did everybody else understand this metaphor that I used? And, like, the point that I was making? Because, like, I think everybody else, a lot of people understood this, right? Okay, good. A lot of people did. Thank God. Okay, yeah, because I was starting to think I was crazy. Yeah, it's very simple. Makes perfect sense. Yes. And what I was saying, let's see, our main factor, you're a bunch of trolls that just agree with this guy. I'm not going to look that wrong because I'm the chatter. No point in arguing. ESG is code for how closely you follow our platform. Okay, so it's all coded language and nothing is stated and it's all a conspiracy. Okay. I got it. All right, next we got one more. Agorist. See what this guy has to say. I'm still here. Yes, you are. You're the last one. He's saying what you're saying? Yes. Okay, I'm just going to address this point right here. Look at how we continue to import everything from China, even though they are the biggest polluter. It's not about the environment. That's just an excuse. Same with how terrorism was an excuse to the Patriot Act. Okay, so by your own logic, then ESG is not about environmentalism, but instead it's about diversity, which China is even worse at. China is worse at diversity than it is at environmentalism. So your own logic disproves itself if you're using China as an example of a company that's immune to ESG and a company that proves that ESG isn't about environmentalism. Because all that you're really doing there is proving that ESG doesn't matter, period. So, let's go. That's so wrong, what you said. It's just baffling. Listen. We got other things to do today. I would love to bring you up, but we're going to do this last person, and I'm not, like, this is the last person, all right? Who grew up in his mom's attic, thinks he knows how shit works? That's right. That's right, I can use simple logic. I'm sorry that you're not able to do the same thing. Yes, I understand this. Love the personal attacks? Well, of course they're making personal attacks, because they don't actually know what I'm saying. Why are so many people bothered by this? Look at the clip of Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO, saying we need to force behaviors with the full context. I know what you're talking about. So what have I said that was wrong? People are particularly good at forming coherent arguments. I'll talk about why I think this is happening in a general sense, but let me finish this person's comment. You're wrong. The source is me. Yeah. You seem to think the type of environmentalism they're pushing is genuine, wholehearted effort to curb harmful pollution. No, I don't. I think that they're trying to push environmentalism that makes them compliant with different regulations, like the EU regulations, for example, with the McDonald's in France. I never said that they had any sort of genuine, wholehearted effort. I never implied that. I never said that in any way. When did I ever say that? I never said that. Do you want to try again? I'll give you one more argument that you can argue against because you already argued against something that I didn't say. Never said that. Must have been 20 minutes ago. Well, no, I told them I had 3 people I had lined up. I had 3 people. And we will go through all 3 of them. As most real arguments, as soon as somebody starts to counter-argument, mixes sophistry, and it becomes impossible to follow. Well, if you knew what you were talking about, it's not is it impossible to follow what I said? What did I say that was complicated? Really? It's impossible to follow this? Come on. Oh, here we go. So it's not about protecting the environment, it's about complying with regulations. Are you saying those are different things? Yes, I am. I'm saying that, well, yes and no. So what I'm saying is that complying with the regulations, whenever the regulations are about protecting the environment, is about protecting the environment indirectly. But the direct goal is to comply with the regulations. And that's why, for example, whenever you use China as an example, they are still investing in the companies in China because they're not beholden to those different types of regulations. And the ESG score that's being used for that is completely irrelevant. So, yes, you're right that they don't really care about the environment, probably, or a lot of them don't. But what I'm saying is that they do care about the environment indirectly because they're following regulations that have to help the environment to an extent. This is debatable. This is extremely debatable, and I'm not going to debate whether it does or does not help the environment. The regulations do, because honestly, I don't know that. But what I do know is that the investor's goal is not to help the environment, it's to make more money. Helping the environment is just a byproduct of complying with making more money. It's all about control, dude. It's all about control, dude. Okay. Oh, God. They can't control this. They say, I think it's that way. I'm saying if they don't really care about the environment, that's not about environmentalism, it's about control, because the policies tend to target individuals' carbon emissions rather than the biggest polluters. Okay, so your problem really is about the different regulations and the fact that you don't like them, and you don't like the idea of a carbon tax. Okay, so what have I said that was wrong? So yeah, what does this have to do? Okay, that's fine. That's your opinion. I'm not talking about that. I have nothing to do with it. So what does that have to do with what I said? Like, I never said that they really care about the environment. I never said BlackRock really cares. Oh, BlackRock cares so much about the trees. When the fuck did I ever say that? When the fuck did I ever even imply that? You think McDonald's gives a fuck about the environment? No. Jesus. People disagree with you to tell you their opinion? No. People disagree with me to tell me their opinion about something that's unrelated to what we're talking about, but they act like that's what I said, and then they get mad at me because I didn't say what they thought. You said ESG isn't as much about the social aspect, but their environmentalism is about social control. Social. Yes. Because ESG, environmental social governance. Didn't you read what it's fucking called? I'm referring to the first letter, not the second one. I'm using a term that is literally, this is the acronym. Of course I'm taught, they don't care about, because... Oh my God. I'll give him one more message. He's making a reaching argument that their environmentalism clauses result in social control, like the carbon tax, and it somehow proves you wrong. Yeah, which is, I never said any of that. It'd be great if I was in your shoes, bro. It doesn't ever bother me, because I just assume most people are just dumb. So if I have somebody who acts dumb, it's like, yeah, for sure that's what's happening, because they're dumb. To make a statement, what did you actually say? Stop snaking around. Well, I'm not arguing with you. This is a person who specifically was unhappy with something I said, and so I'm responding to them. Do people not understand the principles of debate? No. Okay. What I'm saying is the E in ESG is really just an S because, as you said, they don't really care about the environment. It's not about the environment. It's just another way of making people comply with the socio-political aspect. Okay, so what I'm saying in the E and the ESG is just an S because, as you said. Okay, so number one is that the people that they're investing into, like, you're right if you're talking about like an individual carbon tax and other things like that. Yeah, sure, I think that's accurate. You could make that argument, but that's not an argument that I'm making, and that's not disproving anything that I'm saying. I never said that. I never implied that. That's not what I think. So also, in terms of environmentalism, I don't think that McDonald's really cares about people with this food, right? They didn't do this because they love French people. They did this because the EU told them that they had to. And also, I don't think that every single environmentalism movement or every single environmentalism thing that's happening is bad. Like, I am a climate change believer. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I think it's real. I talked about this the other day. I think it's fucking real, guys. Now, are we affecting it? Probably to an extent. Yeah, I think probably to an extent. Are we affecting it a lot? I don't know. But think about it like this, okay? If you're sailing to the other side, like let's say you're sailing from America to Europe, and you are going, like let's say you're sailing in one direction, and you are off by 1 degree. In some cases, that could land you in an entire different city or country. I'll give you another example, another metaphor. Have you ever seen the videos where people put rubber bands around the watermelon? Does the last rubber band destroy the watermelon? Is it that rubber band that's really making the difference? Yes and no. Sometimes that's all it takes to push things over the edge. So yes, I do think that the environmentalism things are good, and also the companies that are investing the investment firms that are investing in these companies aren't the ones making the policies. It's the government making the policies. And if it was up to McDonald's, these policies wouldn't exist. Actually, you know what? Maybe that's not true. Because it could be a form of pulling the ladder up on competition. I'm actually not sure if that's the case. But I think that in general, companies are against that kind of stuff. Environmental toxicity is a much bigger problem than carbon emissions. Toxicity is tangible and provable, and negating pollution can save lives. They don't give a shit about people directly and provably dying, and pollution from pollution, and solving that doesn't make them money. Okay, so you agree with me. Okay. And also the form of social control that environmental measures have is not impacted, and the social control that these environmental measures have that you're talking about, they come from the government, not from companies. Companies are against environmentalism regulations because it costs the companies more, so they earn less. Actually, that's only one piece. So there's also another argument that some companies will actually be for more regulations and actually push for more regulations because it increases the barrier to entry for getting into their field to be even higher. So like if you need $20 million of investment in regulatory, practices, then it makes it harder for other companies to get into the market and compete against you. So this is something that a lot of companies do, and they do promote having more regulation because it actually cuts down competition. So it's a very insidious thing, right? Because like this company is pushing for this, but they're not pushing for it for any other reason other than cutting down competition. So that's actually not entirely true, but in a lot of cases it is. Do you have an example? Do I have an example of that happening? I think there's a Microsoft example. I can't come off I don't know off the top of my head. I actually don't have a specific example. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't have like a super specific good example. Like with the McDonald's thing. I'm sure somebody else could probably come up with one or think of one. I just don't have one off the top of my head. Tesla? I'm not saying that there isn't one. I'm saying that I don't know enough about one. Like, for example, with this McDonald's thing, I know about this. I know why it happened. I know what the cause was. And I understand it. Does that make sense? Okay, I think that this person's pretty much, we're done with this. All right, anyway, so I'll go ahead and I will talk about this a little bit more, and then I want to move on. Number one, I think that ESG is a buzzword. I think that ESG is, in some cases, probably the factor, but I think that in most cases, there are other things that are happening exclusive to or independent from ESG that are actually causing these problems. I think what ESG really is, it is the new buzzword for some sort of top-down, Illuminati-like mindset, social change, social pressure that companies are feeling in order to adhere to different guidelines that are created by people who will not be named, right? That's generally what people believe. Now, is this really the case? I think that primarily ESG is about future-proofing your business against environmentalism regulations. That's the primary goal of it. And I think the diversity and equity and inclusion stuff is something separate that's kind of a footnote. However, and again, this is the chart. It's not that it isn't real. It's that it's not the majority. So whenever I see people bringing this up all the time, I think this is a new conspiracy theorist talking point where they can just bring this up and then everybody's like, oh yeah, true, ESG, right? Whereas most people don't really have any knowledge on the topic. They don't really understand it at all. They've done no reading about it. And the sources that, at least in this example, they provide don't even prove their point. I don't even think they read their own sources. So I understand that this is a problem, and I think that ESG, what is ESG, and the people that are unhappy about it, this is really a metaphor for a lot of people feeling like stories are being written by committees, stories are being written by people that are trying to spread a message, not tell a story. That's really what it comes down to. And I don't think that you need ESG for that to happen. I think that it was happening before ESG, and I think if this ever gets removed or replaced, it will be happening after that as well. The truth is that, for example, with The Witcher, the reason why The Witcher had, basically a lot of the race swapping, like with Yennefer, for example, is because the person who was hired, and she did that on purpose. She explicitly did that. That's why. This isn't, now you could say that ESG is the reason why she got hired. Sure, yeah. But I think that they've been doing diversity hires for decades. And ESG is compared to diversity hires, a relatively new thing. So I don't think that you can just chalk up all of the negative things that happened with Blizzard to ESG. I don't think so. I think that ESG wouldn't exist if there wasn't regulations. I think that ESG is simply a reaction to regulatory pressures. And there are regulations around diversity hiring and things like that too. There are a lot of things like this. Whether it's something about diversity, whether it's something about environmentalism, there are regulations around all of it. ESG is like self-regulation and self-governance for these companies to make sure that they're future-proofed against different types of rules that might happen. Hopefully it made sense. There are some people that might be unhappy with what I said. However, I don't think that those people are arguing usually with what I said. I think that they are arguing with something that they believe, and they are just simply talking about how they feel. And I understand that there will be a lot of people, if this goes on YouTube, there will be a lot of people. YouTube is very right-wing. I think that a lot of people will disagree with my opinion on this. Like I would even argue, I think most people will think that I'm wrong about this. And we'll see what happens.